Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Hatha class, clunky yoga for creaky bodies Hatha class. My name is Amy, and this is Q Wellness Studio. We're so glad we made your way here with us today. Um, Let me check one thing here. Okay, and let's come to a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. For me, that means picking up my bum and moving some flesh out of the way as I sit back on a blanket to provide some ease for my hips. You can also put some blocks under your knees if you find your knees up high today. And if cross legged isn't your thing, wide legged, half cross, straight out, maybe even sitting in your chair before you come down to the floor for class today. Whatever feels right for you. And once you've chosen that, settle in and maybe get the wiggles out, shift from side to side or move around, and then land. And in that landing, maybe just become aware of your breath. And it's the unmanaged breath. You're not doing anything to create a pattern or a type of breathing. You're just aware of the breath. And let that awareness be the thing that anchors you into this moment. Your gaze can be closed or halfway open or on a focal point. Just three more breaths of awareness and settling. And after your third breath, if it feels true for you, bringing hands together at heart center ish for you, or perhaps hands resting atop one another right at your heart, or hugging yourself, whatever feels right as we offer ourselves a greeting, a welcoming, and a recognition of the divine within each of us. Namaste. And then we're coming back up, releasing the hands, dropping them back, and then shifting just from side to side. Just engage in some spontaneous movement, whatever's calling to you. As I talk a little bit about what we're going to do today, which is exploratory work. And we're kind of go opposite of how we usually begin class, which is with neck work and jaw work and shoulder work. And we're going to mix it all up. And we're going to explore and see what it feels like at the end. Because today, and I think maybe for this month, I haven't decided, but today certainly I'm going to think about my jaw quite a bit and how much my jaw wants to practice yoga with me. And do all of the poses and help me get there when it's really not a muscle to do that. Um, I can clench and I can bear down and I can use force in my jaw to try and force myself in that position. And so today we're going to practice non-jaw yoga, which is going to mean we're going to be aware that we're not using the jaw as a muscle to explore our body, to get into poses. And when we bring that awareness through the poses that we're doing, we're going to see how that opens up for us or how it feels at the end of class. And we're going to do that with lots and lots of curiosity. And for me, there's always a ton of laughter involved, um, usually mostly at myself. And that curiosity brings a lot of compassion for where I am and then it empowers me to give myself kindness and take and offer what I need right then. So we'll keep that in mind as we get going. And we'll just start by staying seated on your blanket if you want. If you're on blocks, you might want to slide off. And I'm actually going to slide off of my blanket, but keep it close because we'll use it during class. I do want to offer that anytime we're on our knees today, you're welcome to pad your knees with the blanket. I have an extra thick yoga mat. So if you find that I'm not doing that, it's because this is super thick. If I had a thinner mat, I would definitely be padding with the blanket or folding up half of my mat and resting my knee on that. And we can always make those adjustments as we're moving along. The other thing I have available to me, chair, two blocks, and a strap, and we'll play with those as we go along. The chair is always good for getting up and down and stability point, as is the wall, which is the fourth prop, and the blocks. So all of that business out of the way, I've uncrossed my legs and crossed them in the opposite position. And I think I'm just gonna stretch them out now and do some windshield wipers. Just dropping slowly from side to side, bringing some fluidity and some movement to what's happening. I'm going to extend my left leg long, bring my right leg in, cross it across the top of my left leg, thread my fingers through each of my toes. So it looks like this if you can. And I'm just going to grasp, fingers grasping the top of the foot, thumb grasping on the side, and I'm going to circle 5 times in either direction. I can hear some creaking and some popping and lots of goodness happening there. And I'm just being curious about this. And after my 5th time, I'm going to lift my leg up so you can see. I'm going to press my foot into my hand like a gas pedal and then pull it forward 5 times. Thumb can kind of help support on the side to do that work like this. All right. Then set the foot back down and take the hands so that they're grasped like this. Thumb on the bottom of the foot at the big toe and pinky toe, and then just gently turn the top of the foot from side to side. All right. And then release. And we'll do that on the other side. But before we switch there, can you notice the difference between left and right foot? I'm kind of curling my toes underneath, if you can see that. Hmm. My right leg from knee down feels a little looser. My ankle doesn't feel quite as stiff. And yeah, that's about it for right now. There's the big observations. So taking left leg, crossing it across the top of the right foot, threading the fingers through, grasping tightly, firmly, I guess, and then circling 5 times in either direction. And then switch for me to get to 5. And then again, I'm going to pick it up to show you. I'm going to press back like the ball of my foot's pressing into gas pedal, and then I pull forward 5 times. Of course, your leg is resting on your thigh, and you can even put a block underneath if you need to support that bent leg. Again, on a blanket if necessary. And then after your 5th time, grabbing with your thumb, bottom of the foot at the pinky toe and big toe, and just moving that foot from side to side 5 times. Ah, and then release and stretch the leg out nice and long. And let's check that out. Oh, yeah, it's different for me. How about for you? That's all we're doing. We're just being curious. We're going to see where this gets us today. Now, from this straight legged position, propping yourself up if you need to, or even bringing knees to the ground, whatever works. I want you just to engage your core. And I'm going to go over this once today, but I'll talk about it a lot in class. I'm going to cross so you can see it might be easier. When I talk about engaging your core, I mean bringing your belt, imagining your belly button being buttoned into your back. And then there's a scoop up and over, like someone's taking an ice cream scoop and pulling it up and over. So this engages front to back, deep abdominals, and helps engage the pelvic floor to keep us stable. And then you're going to take your hands to your ribs, fingertips splay around the front, thumbs come to the back, and you're going to pick yourself up like someone's picking you up, and then tilt your hands slightly forward and set them back down. So now that we've got that abdominal engagement that we can find again in that rib stack, we've got this nice kind of less effort sitting up posture. And we want that because now what I would like you to do is touch your jaw. Maybe start up by the temples and really palpate. What does it feel like in there? Right here for me is some tension. I can feel it when I press in, it's sore. How about for you? And then walk it along the side. Whew. And then once you come around to the front, walk that back up and release. And now try to open your mouth as wide as possible and close. And do that 2 more times and see how far you get the next 2 times. Okay, for me, when I do that, my left side pops. It gets easier, right? Because I'm stretching it a little bit each time, moving it, loosening it a little each time, but I can feel tension. And so let's just be mindful of that. And instead of trying to solve that right now, like we usually do, let's think about what we did with our feet. Because our feet kind of, we felt that in our knees, right? We felt some relief. And so from our knees, let's just move up to our hips and go from there and see if we can't change how this feels by starting from the bottom. So, next thing on deck is some mobility drills. These are my favorites. What we do is we come into a 90-90 position on the front leg. In yin, this is known as deer. Patting your front knee and back knee with a blanket if you need to. We've got the knee kind of ankle alignment, like your foot from a lunge has fallen over. And then the same thing is happening on the back leg. The feet are actually flexed and pointed like we do in yoga. And I'm sitting quite a bit on that front leg, which for me is my left. I've got that core engagement. And before we go anywhere, I'm just going to demonstrate for you that I'm going to, with my hands here if I can, if not using fingertips lightly on the floor, rotate up. I'm going to bring the legs up, roll so that the soles of the feet are both on the ground, and then come over to the other side, trying to maintain that 90-90 position. And then we rotate back through. If you're new to this, certainly start with your hands on the ground. If you've been practicing this with me for a while or familiar with this, let's challenge ourselves by keeping our hands in prayer position or clasped or on our hips. Something to give us a little bit of a challenge. So 90-90 core engagement. We're going to shift and rotate up. So the back leg picks up, front leg picks up. We roll through the feet ankle that we just stretched, and then roll in the opposite direction, 90-90. This one was better on my second time. So if this is your first. With curiosity, keep an eye on what you're doing and check in with your jaw. Are you clenching to get this done? Man, because if I weren't talking, I probably would be. So rotate to the back again. And actually, take your tongue. We're going to rotate to the front. Take your tongue to the roof of your mouth and rest it just behind your back teeth, the back of your front 2 teeth, like that. And then try and do this. That causes your mouth to pop open, doesn't let you bear down in that jaw, causes some freedom to happen in there. Couple more times at your pace, really rotating so the soles of the feet touch the ground. I'm going to go to the back one last time. You're probably traveling on your mat like I am, but I am able to maintain those 90-90 positions as I do this. And release. I'm going to come back to center, and you can too. And just do those windshield wipers again. You haven't released your tongue, do so now. And then settle in, straight legs back out, palpate a little bit, 3 times open. Looser for me, curiously, right? Hmm, really? So let's keep going. How about for you? Let's just keep exploring. Coming back into a cross-legged position. So far, we've warmed up the knees through the work that we're doing. We've actually actively touched our feet, warmed up our ankles, stretched our toes. And you know, when you practice chair yoga with Sonia, she talks about this quite a bit about tightening the shoelaces or making gecko feet. And we've done some mobility work. We've done some opening to help that happen. And we also do that in this class quite a bit. Um, though Sonia cues it so well. So from this seated position, shifting some flesh out again, doing that core engagement and that rib stack. I'm gonna slide my jaw from side to side. Hmm, okay, we're just checking in. So what we're gonna do next are some hip circles, but we're gonna be mindful that as we're doing these, we're not clenching down. So if that means for you, the tongue back up to that spot I told you, please do so. That means just letting your mouth hang open, allow that to happen. Or you can really engage in some ujjayi breath at this point, which is the deep inhale through the nose and the exhale down through the back of the throat. Just be mindful that it is possible to do ujjayi with a clenched jaw. So let that ujjayi breath be soft. From this stabilized position we're still holding, because I've been talking and the core's been working, we're going to shift forward. So we'll inhale forward and exhale round back 5 times both directions. Really get those shoulders in there as much as possible. If you need to take your legs out wide to accommodate this, or even bring them into a diamond position to make some space for the mid belly, which I'm going to do today, because goodness gracious, isn't it there? And then switch directions if you're on your fifth time. Just some gentle hip circles, pelvic circles, because we did that hip mobility work, which naturally involves our pelvic floor and our pelvis. And I certainly noticed a little bit of space and change in my jaw. So I'm beginning to wonder if we open this up a little more, what this will feel like by the end of class. Just curious. And then stop and release. Few more windshield wipers. And then grabbing your blocks, both of them. And so just to recap, we've done feet, by default, knees and our hip mobility drills, and we've done some pelvic hip circles. So we're kind of opening up from the bottom, and we've checked in a couple times and done a couple things to see how this feels from where we started class. So we're gonna, you know what? We're gonna keep the blocks close to us for now, and we're actually gonna come down onto our backs. So fingertips, hands underneath the thighs, and roll back down. It wouldn't be my class if we didn't pretend or at least do a little bit of core work. So let's get that out of the way right now with some abdominal bracing. So check things out. Feet are stepped on the floor and slide your hands and see how high they are underneath your back. I've got quite the arch here. My shoulders are down though, and my head is resting as if I had eyeballs in the back of my head. That's where my head rests. I don't want this arch when we practice abdominal bracing. So can I do that core work we did again? Attach the belly button to the low back and then pull it up and over. And that helps my back become flat on the floor and engages my pelvic floor. Now, if you do that and you find this is way too hard for me to hold, or I still have a little space, this is where you'll take a blanket and you might have to play around with the thickness of the blanket, but you build the floor up to you. So from here, you could do that pelvic and that core abdominal engagement again and tuck in. And there, maybe that's more feasible for you today with this built-in floor. And I'll leave it like this so you can see. So I've got belly button to back, scoop of an ice cream cone. For me, it's like a knitting hook pulling through. Then I slide my hands to my ribs and I pick them up and I set them down. And I'm actually kind of patting around here and feeling that engagement. Do you guys feel that already? That's a lot of work happening. And then we're going to float legs up into reverse tabletop. The closer we bring our legs to ourselves, the easier it gets. The farther away, the bigger the challenge. So kind of rock back and forth and feel what you can maintain, still keeping that back flat on the floor. Palms slide up the thighs, rest at the top of the knees. Hands press into the legs press into the hands, and then fingertips gently slide up. And we keep our head in alignment and we hold. We're going to hold for 30 seconds. I'm already trembling as I reattach all that core work that I'm doing. Touching the ground. Is your jaw clenching? Maybe open it up wide and tell me how much this is sucking for you right now. I can't believe you're making me do this, Amy. But if I say this out loud, my jaw's not clenching and it distracts me as I keep talking, trembling so much. Core engagement one last time. And we've got 1 second and release. Woo. Windshield wiper if you want to. Maybe take a pencil stretch. Woo. And then release and come back up, and we'll do that for another 30 seconds. Remembering the closer in, the less intensity. So stamping our feet on the ground, building the floor how we need it if we need to adjust, attaching and creating that J hook position, stacking our ribs, because when we flare our ribs, we help to flare and keep things disengaged in a way that we don't want. And we float the legs back up, rock them too far forward and too far back till we find that Goldilocks position. Palms slide up the thighs, top of the knees, hands and legs press against each other. Slight fingertips go up, and we're in it for 30 more seconds. Engage that core again, all that action, press into the hands, backing off of this whenever you need to. Can you hear the trembling in my breath? Ujjayi breath would be so good right now. We've got 10 seconds to go. 3, 2, 1, and release. Windshield wiper the legs or take a pencil stretch. Nicely done. This is one of my favorite core exercises to do when I'm not on the yoga mat, but in my real life. I guess this is my real life, but when I'm not practicing yoga, point is I'm trying to make this is a great daily exercise for engaging, strengthening, and creating endurance in the deep abdominals, which are what help keep us functioning and upright and going. So if you used a blanket, move it out of the way, find your way up just long enough to grab your blocks. And if you don't have your blocks, you can do all of this with a rolled up blanket or on the floor. If you roll up the blanket, you might want to keep it, open it up and then roll it so that it's not super thick roll. I'm going to use my blocks, and we're going to take one block and stand it tall. And then we're going to take the other block. So hamburger hot dog block. um, my my yoga teacher, Kelly, taught me how to call them like this. And we're actually going to come to a resting position so that the blocks wrap around our shoulder blades. But to get there, we're going to have to do a little bit of wiggle and wobbling. The back of our head is going to rest on the top of this block. I'm going to scoot this down so that my arms don't hit the chair. Make sure that things are clear for you. The best way I know how to do this is fingertips pointing towards the front of the mat. And I just kind of pick myself up and rock back and forth and set myself down and then pick it up and scoot around a little bit and then drop to my elbows. And I've got that block long ways right in between my shoulder blades. And then I bring this other one and just kind of adjust my head underneath it. I might have to move into an awkward position to do that, and then make the adjustments by lifting your body or block. We've got this nice chest opener happening here. We're going to do some shoulder work because if you think about it, when we clench or activate or really use our jaws and muscle, we're going through the sides of the neck and then uh, eventually the shoulders pull up, right? And they are already pulled up in tension and rolled forward because of how we live. So let's just, which is in this forward motion. So let's just see with some curiosity and a lot of laughter, what happens when we pay attention to them a little differently. I'm going to keep my feet stepped out on the floor. They're a little wider than 90. I like the stability that provides. Your back will want to arch, so find that gentle core engagement again. And then take your hands out long beside you, fingertips pointing to the front of the mat. And then with an inhale, lift your arms up and go just to about shoulders plugged in the socket. And you'll know what that feels like because when they go too far, and then you go too far forward in the opposite direction, it actually looks like for me in my head, it looks like I've plugged in a lamp to a light socket. My shoulders actually plug in and wrap down around that block. Can you feel that? Do that again. Reach up and plug them in. And then from that position, drop your hands down and lift them up and down and lift them up. Now take them overhead and up and overhead and up. The whole time, I've still got my shoulders plugged in. They are wrapping around the sides of that block. Third time. So let's really be mindful of that. Turn your hands in to face one another. Extend your fingertips up like you're trying to touch the ceiling. And then just slide your arms back into position and squeeze those shoulder blades into the block, like you're trying to pick up the block with your shoulder blades. Slide your arms back up, making adjustments in space if you need to, and then slide them back and down and squeeze. And one more time, up and squeeze. Ooh. Then bring them overhead, then bring them out wide into cactus arms. And this is hard. Can you feel this? It's a ready chest opener. And then draw your elbows up towards the ceiling and down towards the top of the front of the mat. Then slide from this position, trying to maintain it as long as possible. Slide your hands back towards one another as if they're going to rest right above the top of your head. And then slide them back down. That low position, elbows up and pointing towards the bottom of the mat. And slide up and slide down. Let's take that 2 more times. Slide up and down and up and down. Now, really, really drop those fingertips towards the floor. Rotate the elbows up. Lower the hands and release. Ah. And just check in for a second. And notice where your jaw was and all of that. And then roll to the side, come up, and this long block, turn it short ways or hamburger ways. And it's actually going to rest kind of mid scapula. So you'll have to do that adjustment again. The tips are not hanging off the back, they're actually resting on it. And I think if I had to describe this, it's right across where the back of a workout bra would be, or the bras that they use now in sports to monitor heart rate and blood pressure and all of those things. Right across the middle section of that, not at the strap, but in between the top and bottom. We're going to do that again, but we're not going to go through all of it. We're just going to go through taking our hands up nice and high. We're going to widen them as wide as our block. So our arms are going to come out wide. I'm going to slide them down again, but it's like we're trying to wrap the scapula around the short edges of the block. It's not going to happen, but it's going to create a different sensation and that we're wider. So I'm coming down 3 times when I do that, reaching up. This is my third time. How about for you? Widening. I'm actually having to bend my elbows when I do this, which is unlike before. 2 more times. And we're really releasing that scapula, which is going to just help release so much more. And then up, and we're going to do those 5 times where we come into cactus arms and slide up and back, elbows up, fingertips down, up and back. 3 more times, your pace. Really moving with intention, maybe inhaling up and then ujjayi breath down. Last time. And then release. Release the hands back down. Just take a breath or two. And then roll to the side. Come up off of your block. Move them out of the way. Roll back down. Take your arms out nice and wide, like a mini shavasana. And just assess, what does it feel like from foot to knee and knee to pelvic floor hip section, and then pelvic floor hips clear up to the shoulders. And then from here, open your mouth. Oh, wow. Much wider for me. How about for you? 2 more times. Release. 1 more time. Release. My popping has actually gone away. That's so cool. And then let it all go. Roll over to the side. We know how to get up from this kind of shavasana. And come into a brief all fours, keeping your blocks close to you. Adding, if you want, um, your knees, dropping to your forearms, grasping the hands together, tucking the toes under, engaging that core like we know how, and then just moving through a gentle cat cow where the head stays in the exact position where its fingers, eyes are looking at your fingers. And we're just moving kind of through the low back, mid back region into the shoulders a little bit. You can round your head on the cat if you want to, but please just keep looking at your hands when you're, I'm sorry, in cow. Really push through those shoulders 1 more time in cat and release. Coming into all fours, we'll move into our first brief downward facing dog. It's going to be a shortened one. So tucking the toes, engaging the pelvic floor, pickle jar hands. So fingertips are grasping the mat and slightly turning out. Balls of the feet are really pressing into the ground. Engage that core, press up through the knees and shift back into downward facing dog. If downward facing dog is not available for you today, you are welcome to practice puppy pose where the position is exactly the same, except our arms walk out long and push away from us as we shift our hips back. So your choice between puppy pose and downward facing dog, just walking that out a little bit. Maybe picking up the balls of the feet and shifting the heels over to the right. Nice deep stretch, picking them up and coming through center and shifting to left. Pickle jar hands, core is engaged, shoulders rolling up, back and down. Coming back through center, And picking up the left leg for me, lifting it in the air. So momentum would just let us fly that up. Come back down for a second and check out what I'd like you to try to do. When we did that abdominal work, that abdominal bracing, and every time we do this, we're allowing the deep muscles of the core to help drive our leg action. So, what I'm going to have you do when we lift that leg up, instead of just flying it back, is I'm going to have you engage that pelvic floor. I'm sorry, the abdominals like we did, and lift the foot off the ground. This is a lot of hard work. And my core is holding that leg up, and then pull into the core, and it floats the leg back up. We're going to try that on either side. So, set yourself up. You know where we're going. Pickle jar hands, toes tuck under, press into your downward facing dog. It can be a full one or a short one. Find that non-core engagement, core engagement. Set yourself up, press into those hands, and just lift your foot up off the floor as high as it'll go and set it down. Up and down. And the third time, bring it up. Let it float back because you're using your core. And then take it out to the side. Drop it or step forward about 3 paces. So you're in this really awkward downward facing dog. Press into the hands. Certainly use your blocks if you want to at this point coming up. Shift your hips from side to side. And then what you're going to do is the leg that is in the front awkward facing dog is you're going to step on the ball of the foot, engage the core, and step that leg back in or bunny hop it through center. And then you're going to step in. I'm going to turn around so you can see this. I'm on my blocks. I'm stepped in. I'm going to step through because I'm going to move into warrior two. So first I'm moving into a lunge position. As you can see, I'm using blocks. Pressing into that front leg, rising up into lunge, spinning that back foot down and moving into warrior two. So back foot is down. I actually like to just slightly turn my toes of my back leg in, press up out of that straight leg. So the temptation in warrior two is to do this. The actual warrior two is like all of that abdominal work that we've done and that hip mobility work we've done. So roll onto the edge of the pinky toe on the back foot and then step into the foot completely. Step into the front leg. Engage your core. Fire your glutes. Turn them on towards one another. Slide into that front leg, moving into a 90-degree-ish position. And if you've got that lean, pull up through your core and let that float you back to center. Take your arms out in front of you. Plug them in like we did on the block. Open them up wide. Warrior two. Then bring your hands behind you. Grasp so that your left thumb is on top. Bend in the elbows. Engage the core. Try to keep the palms together, but pull the hands apart. It looks like this. And then what you're going to do is bring your head back to center. Slide your arms back and down. Nice bend in them. Drop your head or your chin towards the front of your chest. Slide up out of your warrior two. Slide back in. Drop that chin. And wipe your collarbone with your chin. 3 times. And then release everything and stand back up. Woo, lots of work in the leg in that, lots of work in the core. We started to release some of this. We're in this position. So where it feels like it's natural to go here, well, let's go into triangle. So sliding in, back foot stays in that alignment. Front leg now straightens. So if we're here, we don't just want momentum to bring us up. We want to think about that core pulling this leg straight like we did in that awkward downward facing dog. We're going to keep a block handy. I'm going to set it on my highest height, inside of the leg. Glutes roll in towards one another, core engages, ribs stack. Arms come out in front of us and we plug them in like we did on that block. Take them out nice and wide. And then we just float our way down because our core is so stable, it's allowing us to float. We're going to take our back arm, wind it down in front of us, up and over. We've got a lateral stretch happening here. Then float it up. And gaze can come up. Trace the wall of the room down to the floor. If that isn't comfortable for you, come back up and do that 2 more times. If that isn't comfortable, look at the floor, look straight ahead. Choose what works best for you. Land in your triangle pose. Release the back hand to the hip. Press into the front leg. Stand up nice and tall. Move the block back to the front. So you're framing your front foot, which is my left foot. And then we're just going to step in on that back leg, bunny hop. Turn that back leg back. Ooh, so we're back in a lunge position. You might have to walk around to get there. And from this lunge position, resting on our blocks, step into the back leg, tighten the quad, lift the leg, fingertips hard on the block, step into that front leg, engage the core, pull up, nice and strong. Float the arms up, cactus, and then bring the elbows down and forward, and up to cactus, and down and forward, then up overhead like we did, and then down and forward, and one last time, up overhead. Release the hands to the block, step the leg back and come down into downward facing dog with or without blocks, and then into all fours. How was that? All right, let's do that palpation. Let's do that opening. Biggest one yet. How about you? Oh, goodness. Big math. That's what I'll be for the rest of class. So we're going to do all of this on the opposite leg, coming into all fours, pressing into that downward facing dog. Engage the core and lift that opposite leg. For me, it's the right up and set it down, up and down, up to the side, out, out, out. 3 steps, awkward facing downward dog. Blocks here if you have them and want them. And let's engage in some gentle movement. Slide to side here. That dynamic movement just tends to loosen things up for me. And I'm actually going to turn my head as I shift from side to side. And then from here back to center, I'm going to step that leg in, step it through to a lunge position. Now we know we're not hanging out here in the lunge position for super long. We will return to it, but we know enough that we can stabilize the front leg like we want it to be in Warrior 2. And then we can spin that back leg down and open to move into that Warrior 2. Now again, the temptation would be right here, but we're using that core that we just did. So pull up through the core, stack the ribs, maybe take the hands to the legs and press up, engage that core to float up. Arms out nice and wide. Warrior 2. Slide behind you with the hands, thumb of the right hand on top now. We've got that bend behind us as we pull our shoulders up, roll them back and down, slide them down, drop the head down, then stretch the neck to the ear to the left, roll it back through center, stretch it to the right, back through center, left, back through center. Right. Back to center, pick up the head, release the hands, press into that front leg and push up. Nice. Moving into triangle. So far, feet, knees, hips, pelvic floor. We did a little core work. We've worked a lot on opening those shoulders and we've done some neck stretches as we've gone along. And back of our neck, we're going to move into triangle. So roll into the back foot so that all of the foot is really stepped on the mat. Press into that front foot so much that it press and it's your core and the press of that front foot that's straightening that leg. Bring your bum towards one another, engage your core, then float your hands up, take them out wide, and float down to your block. I'm going to take that back hand, wind it. How did I do that? Yep. Wind it towards the front of our body for that nice lateral stretch. We're still spinning open, and then float the hand up. Press into the feet, engage the core, squeeze the bum. Head looks down and traces a line up the wall 3 times. And then release. Frame the front foot. Blocks frame the front foot. Spin up onto the toes of the back leg. Step that leg in. Framed front foot with the blocks. Stepping into the feet on both legs. Pressing in, engaging that core. Sliding in, sinking into that front leg and floating up into lunge. And from lunge, we did cactus arms. Elbows come down and up and then down and reach up overhead, down and reach up overhead, down, float down, move the blocks out of the way or just step back into all fours. And from there, take a quick child's pose. Maybe even roll your forehead on the mat. Grip the fingertips and press them away. Sink your bum toward your hips, obviously tucking a blanket underneath your knees if that kind of child's pose isn't available for you or coming onto a block. And then releasing and coming back up. And let's spin around for just a second or come into heroes or seated. Let's do one more palpation. Oof. And then open your mouth. Wow. Okay, let's test this. Fingertips spin back behind us, pointing away, engage the core, gentle back bend, lift up the shoulders, roll them back and down, allow the head to float back, really being held. Now have an underbite and shift from side to side. Easier for me. How about for you? Make kissy lips, ducky lips, and release. So good. Okay. Few more things just before Shavasana. Turning back to the long edge of our mat if we weren't there. Windshield wiper in the legs. Releasing, sliding the hands back and under. Moving into a happy baby. So bringing your feet back up into that tabletop position. And then like we did in Warrior 2, and I know Sonia's practicing Warriors 1, 2, and 3 in her class. pressing those feet onto the ceiling like we do into our mats. And suddenly, this feels very reminiscent of that abdominal engagement we did, the bracing, and all that we did in standing poses. And we can kind of see it's not about learning how each specifics for each pose. It's about understanding the strength of the body and the alignment that helps us accomplish each pose. So from that, sliding our hands to the outside of our shins and either grabbing our clothing or our ankles or the outside edge of our feet, coming into happy baby, and even rocking side to side if you'd like. You can practice this two ways. You can practice kind of rolling up and feel what that does through your low back, or you can practice rolling the spine back down and maybe even moving through both. Today I'm going to move through both. There's just a little bit of stretch happening in that low back that needs that SI area that needs to happen for me. So you play around with what works for you and then settle in. Use your elbows pressed in your knees to widen your legs. Check out your jaw. Check out your breath. And then release. And instead of bringing your legs in, just wrap your elbows around your knees and then bring like your knees into your armpits. Release, step the feet back down. We'll take a twist on either side. So extending one leg out nice and long. For me, it's the left. Shifting my hips over to the right because that's the knee that's going to bend. If your left knee is going to bend, you're going to shift your hips to the left. And bringing the hand across, sliding it to the outside of the thigh and the knee, making sure you have a blanket or blocks available as you bring that knee across your body. And resting it on your blocks or your blanket. And then picking up your shoulders and sliding them over to the side you're twisting. So I'm twisting to the left, which means I'm sliding my shoulders to the left. And then letting your foot or knee rest on your block or blanket, sliding your hand of the twist direction of the straight leg into the crease, grabbing that flesh and rolling that hip down and away. And then releasing that hand, taking it to the inside of the bent leg, helping to push that leg back up, letting the foot float to the floor, shifting back to the center of the mat, straightening the leg for a pause. Nice big inhale and exhale through the mouth. And we'll take that on the other side. So for me, it's going to be my left leg that bends. So I'm going to step that onto the floor, shift onto my right. Right arm comes across and helps that left leg roll over the side of my body. Excuse me. If I had my props, it would be resting on something right now. And then I pick up my shoulders and I slide them over to the side of the straight leg to bring that opposite arm down. And then finally, the arm on the straight leg finds that hip crease and rolls it down. And I'm noticing age has a lot to do with it, but I'm noticing it. My face feels looser. It feels like my face is gravity is taking hold and pulling it down. And the reason I'm noticing that is because it just doesn't feel as tight in my jaw area right now. My jowls feel loose, I think is a good way to say that. What's going on for you? And then release using that hand to lift the leg back up. Extending nice and long. And then one more quick stretch, taking the feet and walking them to the edge of the left side of your mat, and then picking up the shoulders and walking to the right corner of your mat. So we're kind of in this banana position. And then you're going to take your right leg and cross it atop your left ankle. And your arms are going to come up like they did on the block. Tuck them back in, lower them back over your head if possible. And if possible, snake your left hand around your right wrist and create kind of like a bend. So just a little bit of side body stretch. You can keep your head at the ceiling or even gently roll it from side to side. You could do ducky lips or kissy lips. You can just be. Two more breaths. And then release. Walk everything back to center. We'll take this on the other side. So feet walk towards the right corner of the mat. Shoulders walk towards the left corner of the mat. Arms plug in like they did and lift over like on the block as the right hand snakes around the left wrist and the left foot crosses at the right ankle. And then we make that arch and gently tug. Pull. And notice what's your jaw doing. Can you relax through your shoulders? What I'm noticing is when I take this posture at the end of class, I really feel the area that is the most tight, the most intensely. So it feels like it's getting the most attention versus all this work happening like it usually does when I take it at the start of class. And it's nice. It's like everything that was tight before has released to help the super tight area be the focal point of release and release more easily. If any of that made sense. Two more breaths. And then release and moving into the shavasana of your choice. That can be resting on the ground in the position we are on our back, blanket or block or blanket or bolster underneath your knees or thighs or feet resting on your blocks or even blocks under the knees. Shavasana can be sitting up. Shavasana can be on your belly with your hands resting on your head resting on your stacked hands and your feet out wide to the edges of the mat. Shavasana can be on your side, curled up in that cradle position. We've moved through so much of this class with a lot of curiosity and compassion for what we were experiencing and lots of laughter. So let this last part of class be the biggest offering of kindness for what is your body calling right now? And can you give that to yourself? So arranging yourself in the position that is best for you and truest for you in this moment. And then noticing that unmanaged breath again. And letting that breath kind of pull you zoomed in to this moment. And then you're going to take in just a moment, you're going to take a big inhale and exhale. And on the exhale, you're going to just exhale it all out, like you've crumpled up a sheet of paper and thrown it away. But first, just take a normal breath. Inhale and exhale. Then inhale big and fully. And like that crumpled sheet of paper, and let that be the letting go of everything as you arrive and rest. Beginning to bring awareness to the sound of my voice. And with that awareness, deciding to remain in Shavasana or continuing to use your breath through noticing to become more engaged with your surroundings. Just a gentle awareness of something greater than you on the mat. And then choosing to engage a little more by rolling to a seated position or passing through that cradled position for a few breaths before you roll into a seated position. And then making your way into that comfortable seated position, moving whatever flesh out of the way that you need. Maybe even palpating your jaw one more time and opening so wide we have no choice but to call you the biggest of big mouths. Ah, and then releasing, bringing your hands to heart center or resting on your chest, choosing the gaze of your choice and dropping your head in acknowledgement and gratitude for showing up for yourself today on the mat. And knowing what a privilege it is for me to spend this time with you and how grateful I am. Thank you. Be sure to check out the rest of our offerings this week. There's another chance at chair with Sonia. That was some nice alliteration where it's clunky and creaky and strength building. And then Amber puts it all together for us at the end of class with a gentle, gentle flow that helps us move into and then find ease with all of the work we've done from the first three classes this week. That's chair on Monday and Wednesday, and my class on Tuesdays or anytime on demand. But I recommend that pattern. And certainly don't forget to practice this weekend. Thank you. We're so glad you're a part of the studio family. And the recording has stopped.